Hello, welcome to the Building Blocks of Bars Codes. My name is Kaylee Paggio with the Office of the Washington State Auditor, and the purpose of this training is to provide an overview of the basic structure of a bars code and the different categories of codes. This training applies to both GAAP and cash basis local governments. So let's get started. The learning objectives for this training is to understand the building blocks of bars codes, and that means breaking down the basic structure of those codes. We will also go over the categories and structure of revenue and expenditure bars codes. Then we'll get into object codes and how that fits into the structure of expenditure codes. Lastly, we will finish out the training with additional trainings and resources that are available to local governments. We'll start off with the basics of bars code structure. One of the most important things to remember about the basic structure of bars codes is that all bars codes must be 7 digits long for reporting to the state auditor's office. When we break it down further, the first 3 digits are always prescribed. But what does that mean exactly? Prescribed digits are required to be used by SAO for reporting purposes. So that means that those first 3 digits on all bars codes are prescribed for specific uses and are required to be used for reporting purposes. Now with that, it is very common for local governments to include additional digits for tracking needs within their internal accounting systems, such as identifying numbers for specific funds, accounts, etc. And that is completely fine, but just remember that any additional digits must be eliminated when it comes time to report to SAO. Now let's break down a bars code and talk about what each digit means within the 7-digit code. Remember, all bars codes must be 7 digits for reporting purposes. Starting with the first digit, if the bars code starts with a 3, it represents beginning balances, revenues, and other increases. If the bars code starts with a 5, it represents ending balances, expenditures, and other decreases. Now, when we start breaking down the other digits, they will have different meanings based on if it's an increase or decrease. Remember, the first digit indicates if it's an increase or decrease or beginning or ending balance. Let's talk about the second and third digits for increases. These represent the category or source of revenues or increases. We will talk about categories of revenues later, but this is just the basic structure of bars codes. For decreases, the second and third digits represent the functions and activities for which the expense or decrease supports. Similar to revenues, we'll also talk about the different functions and activities in a little bit. The fourth and fifth digits for increases represent further details for specific types of revenues or increases within a specific source. For decreases, the fourth and fifth digits represent further details for specific types of expenditures or decreases related to that particular function or activity. Lastly, we have the sixth and seventh digits. For increases, these digits are generally not defined and are represented as zeros. If represented as zeros, they can be customized by the government. However, we really caution this because these digits may become prescribed later, which could impact the customization. We generally only advise customizing bars codes as an advanced topic once a local government has a thorough understanding of their bars codes and are able to identify what digits are prescribed versus what could be customized. If the sixth and seventh digits are not represented as zeros, they are prescribed and required to be used. For decreases, these digits represent the object code, which identifies the specific type of items that support the function or activity. As promised, let's talk about the categories of bars codes. As you can see, we have it broken out by beginning ending balances, revenues, the 3-7 series, which applies to GAAP proprietary funds only, then other increases, expenditures, and lastly, other decreases. You can also see that the codes starting with a 3 represent beginning balance, revenues, and other increases. Then the codes starting with 5 represent ending balance, expenditures, and other decreases. This matches to what we just talked about previously when breaking down what each digit means. We are going to turn our focus specifically to the code structure of increased bars codes. As we mentioned earlier, the first 3 digits are always prescribed, and you can also see that the codes always need to be 7 digits. Here is a visual list of the different categories of revenues and other increases. You can see that they all start with the digit 3, which indicates its revenue or other increases. Then the second digit is what identifies the category of revenues. The 3 tens are for taxes, the 3 20s are for licenses and permits, the 3 30s are for intergovernmental revenue, such as federal, state, local awards, etc. The 3 40s are for charges for goods and services, the 3 50s are for fines and penalties, the 3 60s are for miscellaneous revenues. The 3 70s are only applicable to GAAP proprietary funds because of how these revenues are reported in full accrual accounting. Then lastly, the 3 80s and 3 90s are the other increases, which include things like custodial activities, debt, error corrections, etc. To round out the building blocks of revenue and other increased bars codes, let's go through an example of how to build a bars code using the knowledge we have now about what each of the digits mean. The purposes of this example, we will only go to the third digit. The first digit we have is 3, and remember this represents an increase or beginning balance. Then we have the second digit, which is 1, and this represents the category of revenue, and the 1 specifically represents taxes. Then we have the third digit, which is 3, and this further represents more details of the revenue within the category of taxes. The 3 here represents retail sales and use tax, which is a specific type of tax within the category of tax revenue. Again, this is a high level of how to build a bars code and understanding what the digits represent. This knowledge significantly helps local governments to better understand their chart of accounts and how to identify the correct bars codes to use. We are going to switch gears now and focus on the code structure of expenditures and other decreases. Now keep in mind that the structure of decreases is a little different than the increase side. Expenditures are categorized by functions and activities, whereas revenues are coded based on categories and source of revenue. In the structure of a decrease bars code, the first 5 digits indicate the function and activity that the decrease is supporting. Then the last 2 digits indicate the object code, which is what specific type of item was purchased. Lastly, an important thing to remember is there is no relationship between coding revenues and expenditures, so there is no connection between the revenue codes and expenditure codes. Let's break down the basic structure of a decrease bars code. Unlike increases, the decrease codes are broken out into 2 parts. The first 5 digits identify the function and activity, and remember the first 3 digits are always prescribed. Then the last 2 digits are called the object code and represent the specific item that was purchased. As you can see, the 6th digit is also always prescribed. It's important to remember that object codes are prescribed separately, but when combined, it gets us to the required 7-digit bars code for reporting purposes. Here is a visual list of the different categories and functions of expenditures and other decreases. You can see that they all start with the digit 5, which indicates its expenditures or other decreases. Then the second digit is what identifies the function and activity. As you can see, 510 is for general government. These codes are specific to general purpose governments, such as counties, cities, and towns. Then the 520 is for public safety. 530 is for utilities. 540 is for transportation, 550 is for natural and economic environment, 560 is for social services, 570 is for culture and recreation. And lastly, the 580 and 590s are considered other decreases. To round out the building blocks of expenditures and other decreased BARS codes, let's go through an example of how to build a BARS code using the knowledge we have now about what each of the digits mean. For the purposes of this example, we will only go to the third digit. The first digit we have is 5, and remember this represents a decrease or ending balance. Then we have the second digit, which is 3, and this represents the function, and the 3 specifically represents utilities. Then we have the third digit, which is 4, and this further represents more details of the expenditure within the function of utilities. The 4 here represents water utilities, which is a specific type of utility. Again, this is a high level of how to build a BARS code and understanding what the digits represents. As we mentioned for revenues, this knowledge significantly helps local governments to better understand their chart of accounts and how to identify the correct BARS codes to use. Our last topic is all about additional training and resources that are available to local governments. Since the focus of this training is BARS codes, a helpful resource to use is the BARS Chart of Account Export. This can be found in the Cash and GAAP BARS manuals under the Charts of Accounts tab. This is where you can download all BARS codes that are available to your specific government type and basis of accounting. Let's take a closer look at how that is done. At the bottom of the BARS account export page, you'll see this menu of export options. You'll want to select your government type, basis of accounting, and whether you want to download it in Excel or PDF. I recommend leaving the reporting level as the default, which is above and prescribed. Let's talk a little bit more about the reporting level and why above and prescribed is the default option. This option includes those 3-digit categories of revenues and 3-digit functions of expenditures, which is what we learned about in this training. This is very helpful, especially if your government's chart of accounts is long. It is helpful to be able to identify the category or function first, then see what codes are included under them. This will definitely make it more efficient when trying to identify the correct code. For example, if you know you're looking for an expenditure code, you know now to look for the code starting with 5. And if it's related to public safety, you know now to look at the 520 codes, since that represents the function of public safety. Here is where you can find the object codes to use with the expenditure and other decreased BARS codes. This section is found under the Charts of Accounts tab in both the GAAP and Cash Basis manuals. As part of the 2025 BARS update, we have made significant changes to the account structure section. All the information you learned in today's training can be found in this section in both the Cash and GAAP BARS manuals. If you ever have questions about BARS or annual filing, the best place to contact us is by emailing lgcsfeedback@sao.wa.gov. This is our BARS and annual filing support inbox, and one of our specialists will be happy to help you. I just want to take the moment to thank you for taking the time to watch this training, and we hope that you found benefit in it. Please always reach out if you have any questions, and we are happy to help.